All right, we are ready for Top Secret. And today we are on Chapter 8, which is called President. Can anyone remember what happened yesterday? Madeline?
They were watching TV, then they saw the president, and then they looked at each other, and then they said the president that they should talk to, and then the president's gonna to make him something.
Yeah, we think the president's going to have something to do with it because we read the back, and the president is concerned about Alan. All right, so we know the president is coming to give a speech in their city, and it said, Grandpop and I slowly turned our heads and looked at each other, and that's where we stopped. All right, everyone's ready to listen? Chapter 8, the president. How do you go about meeting the president of the United States? Do you just call him up on the telephone? Hi, I'm Alan Brewster. I'm 9 years old, and I was wondering if you're busy this afternoon, because if you're not, I would like to talk with you. About what? Oh, well, you see, I want to tell you and everyone that I'm a plant. It would never work. He'd think I was some kind of a nut. I couldn't tell the president why I wanted to see him until I was with him. But why would the president want to see me? The answer to my question came the next day when I saw the morning newspaper. There was a photograph of the president on the front page. He was standing underneath a large banner that had the letters SWS printed on it, and he was shaking hands with Peggy Applegate's father, Mr. Applegate. I remembered my father mentioning an organization called SWS that day my picture appeared in the paper. So I read the whole article and found out that Mr. Applegate was head of the local chapter of SWS. SWS stood for an organization called Stop World Starvation. They send food to kids living in poor countries, kids that don't have enough to eat. I read that the president had promised to help SWS in every way he could, although he never mentioned exactly what he was going to do. Well, I knew what to do. With my discovery, no one would ever have to go hungry again. People could simply turn themselves into plants. I had a good reason to see the president. Now, he had a good reason to see me. But would he want to see a 9-year-old kid? I decided to write him a letter. That way he wouldn't know how old I was, especially if I spelled all the words right. After several attempts, this is the letter I came up with. Dear Mr. President, I read about you in an article in our local newspaper. It said you are interested in ending world starvation. Well, I have made a discovery that will enable you to do this. If you are interested, please let me know and I will tell you what it is. Thank you very much. Sincerely, Alan Brewster. I didn't feel it was wrong to call myself a researcher. Under his name it says researcher. After all I've been through, right? He has researched. The newspaper had said that the president was staying at the Plaza Hotel in town. So when I heard my mom leave to go grocery shopping, I got dressed, got on my bicycle, and rode over there. I was afraid if my mom saw me, she'd think I was well enough to go back to school. But I couldn't. Not until I had proof from Miss Green. I'd almost forgot about Miss Green. I gave my letter to the desk clerk at the Plaza Hotel, who promised to give it to the president. There was nothing to do then but wait. It had rained earlier that morning, but by now it was just kind of overcast. As I stood on the back porch, I found that I could not take my eyes off a mud puddle in Grandpop's garden. As if attracted by a giant magnet, I found myself walking toward the puddle, taking off my shoes and socks as I went. Does anyone have a prediction or a thought about this? Hudson, what do you think?
He's probably, when he gets to the puddle, he's probably like getting like plants when they get water, they're going to grow and he's probably going to start growing.
Okay, it's a good prediction. Hayden, what do you think?
Maybe he's going to be like a big, gigantic boy.
Okay, grow real big. Madeline?
I think he's going to just plant himself so then he could grow.
Okay, Josiah?
I think all the water in the puddle's going to go away.
Okay, is that what you're going to say, Quinn?
Yeah.
Noah?
I think he's going to suck up the water.
Okay. Chloe?
I think he's going to be Johnny Appleseed number 2.
Johnny, okay. All right, let's find out. Okay, so he took off his shoes and his socks. I smiled as I put one foot into the dark water. I felt the cold, slippery mud ooze between my toes. I put my other foot in. I can't describe the feeling. It was as if somehow I belonged there in Grandpop's garden, like I never wanted to leave. I looked up and saw Grandpop staring at me. I'm sorry, Grandpop, I said. I'll get out of your garden right away. Don't be ridiculous, replied Grandpop before I could move. I've been saving a place for you. You know, I said, smiling again as I dug my toes deeper into the mud. Plants don't have such a bad life. They're outside, plenty of fresh air, no chores to do. They keep to themselves, added Grandpop. Don't bother anybody. Wish I could say the same for some people. Is that kind of a diss on Alan? That he won't leave people alone?
Yeah.
I think he's joking. It's just too bad they can't read, I said. I would sure miss my encyclopedias. Just then my father appeared at the back door. He was home early from work. What on earth are you doing? He yelled at me. Nothing, I answered, wondering what he meant. Get out of that mud this minute. Wash up and come inside. There's someone here to see you. Someone to see me? I wondered if it could be the president. Grandpop sprayed my feet with the hose, then gave me an old t-shirt to dry off with. As I was drying my feet, I felt some bumps on the bottom of my toes. I twisted my foot around and examined it. Just below the surface of the skin were some dark spots. They seemed to be pushing their way toward the surface. All right, does anyone know, if you look underground on a plant, what's going on underground? Quentin?
Roots.
Grandpop, I called out, come look at these. Grandpop examined the bottom of my toes. Those aren't what I think they are they? They sure are, Grandpop was smiling. You're sprouting roots, boy. What if I had stayed in the mud a little longer? Would they have taken hold? Could I have gotten away? Would I have to spend the rest of my life in the garden? Grandpop didn't answer me. He just began to chuckle. Grandpop! I put on my shoes and socks as fast as I could and went into the house. There were 3 people waiting for me in the living room. The President of the United States was not one of them. There was my mom and dad and a tall, overweight man smoking a cigarette who was introduced to me as Dr. Wiedemeyer. I'm a psychiatrist, said the man, smoke coming out of his nose and mouth as he talked. Do you know what a psychiatrist is, Alan? You're a shrink. Alan, said my mother. I apologize. So, does anyone in here know what a psychiatrist is? Or they're also called shrinks. That's like a nickname. Hayden?
I think they're like things to like calm people down.
Yeah. A psychiatrist studies your brain, and they're able to help you with any sort of mental problems or disorders or diagnoses or anything that you've got going on. So even something like anxiety, you can go see a psychiatrist, okay? So Dr. Wiedemeyer smiled, keeping his lips tight so as not to show his teeth. Your parents asked me to talk with you because they are worried about you. They say you are not eating. They say you give your food to the dog and the cat. Is that true? Yes. At this time, I thought I had fooled them. I guess my folks are pretty smart after all. Why don't you eat your meals? Asked Dr. Wiedemeyer. If I tell you, you won't believe me. Nobody believes me except Grandpop. Try me, said the psychiatrist, as he blew smoke out of the corner of his mouth. Okay, I said. I'm a plant. I believe you. You do? Yes, Alan. I believe that you think you are a plant. The man snuffed his cigarette out in the ashtray. What kind of a plant are you? I don't know. I never thought about it before. Plants have roots, Alan. Do you have roots? Yes, baby ones. Show them to me. I took off my shoes and socks and showed Dr. Wiedemeyer the dark spots on the bottoms of my toes. I also showed my mom and dad. Mom started to cry. Dr. Wiedemeyer wrote something down in a small notebook. Your parents tell me that you love banana splits, Alan. Is that right? They're my favorite, I said. I mean, they used to be before I became a plant. I have one in the kitchen right now. Would you like it, Alan? Thank you, but I'd just get sick. And anyway, I wouldn't be able to taste it. Why's that? I don't have any taste buds anymore. I stuck out my tongue and my mom started to cry again. Why is his mom crying so much? Alex,
Well, yeah.
you want to bounce it on? Pick a new student.
No one. Because he's like showing her that and she can't believe it. And
Yeah.
she's sad about it.
If you were actually turning into a plant and had all these mysterious things happening, your parents would probably be worried, right? All right, so Mom's crying again. Dr. Wiedemeyer touched my tongue. He's right, he told my parents. It's as smooth as a whistle. The way things are going, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if I sprouted leaves next spring and maybe some new limbs. Dr. Wiedemeyer continued writing in his notebook. I noticed his lips moving. He looked up at me and cocked his head to the side. Why are you standing like that, Alan? Like what? And then I noticed that I was tilted in the direction of the table lamp. I was a little embarrassed. I'm sorry, I didn't realize, but plants do grow in the direction of light, you know. Dr. Wiedemeyer jotted down more notes. As I stood there watching him, I felt a sigh of relief. At last, I had been able to convince someone. I didn't need the president after all. The psychiatrist put away his notebook and lit up another cigarette. That was his second in less than 15 minutes. You have a psychosomatic illness, he said, smiling again, his lips tight. He leaned back on the couch and crossed his legs. What does psychosomatic mean? I asked. It means, Alan, that it's all in your mind. That you believe you're a plant. You believe it so much, you begin to act like a plant. That explains your skin color, your not eating, your roots, your lack of taste buds, everything. You're a plant because you think you are a plant. It's all in your mind. I don't think I'm a plant, I insisted. I know I'm a plant. Stop it, said my father, coming over to me. You heard what Dr. Wiedemeyer said. What does it take to convince you? Me? What does it take to convince you? Nothing will ever convince me. I don't care if you got the President of the United States to say that you're a plant. I still wouldn't believe it. You're still my son, and my son is not a plant. The doorbell rang, the doorbell rang. It was a man with a telegram. So a telegram is it's kind of like a letter. So this would come to the door. It was like a fancy formal letter. It's for you, Alan, said my mother, with a funny look on her face as she handed me the telegram. It's from the President of the United States. And that's where we stop. See you guys.
No.